Hi there. In this video we're going to be building a cloud flow using Copilot. Microsoft Copilot is an AI-powered system that works across Microsoft applications and experiences. It's based on a large language model and coordinates with Microsoft 365 apps. In this lesson we'll see how Copilot can be used with cloud flows, run through a demonstration of how to build a flow using Copilot for the My Library solution, and then we'll go on to build a flow from blank. Copilot is AI-powered flow assistance, and it's been configured in a way that allows you to communicate with and interact with Power Automate. Not only does it allow you to create flows as shown in the right-hand side by using natural language, it also allows you to alter those flows when you're in the editor experience. The Copilot for Power Automate is just one of many implementations of Copilot within Microsoft products, and other implementations include PowerPoint, Bing Search, Stream, and Copilot Studio to help you create your own chatbots. We're now going to move on to a demonstration where I build a flow using Copilot. I'm in make.powerautomate.com. If I go to my solutions, I can select on my school library solution. I can select on cloud flows, and I can see I have no cloud flows. Now, it would be possible for me to create a flow by selecting new, and then automation, and then cloud flow. But that won't give us the Copilot experience. So I'm going to select back, go to home, and then in the box here, I'm going to describe the automation that I require. So I'm going to say, when a Dataverse loan is taken out, send an email with the signature, "Thank you from the Contoso Library team." I can now select generate. And we can see the suggested flow that will be created in this instance. I'm happy with this, so I'm going to select next. These connections already exist in my environment, but in your Power Up development environment, you won't have access to Office 365 Outlook. And this is to ensure privacy for all Power Up learners. I can now select Create Flow. And although the flow gets created, it needs certain parameters to be updated for it to work correctly. So first of all, I'm going to select on when a row is added, modified, or deleted. I'm going to select that action. And I'm going to select the correct table. I'm looking for the loans table. I can select on the right-hand side, or I can just search for it. Search for loans, and then I can select loans. I can now select on the Get User Profile. And this particular step we don't need. Now we can try and delete it here. And it removes the step. The information from this step was being used in the Send an Email step. I also need to remove that there. So Copilot has done a number of things for us. It's given us a subject of loan taken out, and it's added in "Thank you from the Contoso Library team." But who are we going to send this to? We're going to send this to the email address of the student that took out that particular loan. So I'm going to select on this step. I'm going to select on the dynamic content. And I'm going to search for the student email. I can select on student email. And now we have a very, very basic flow that would send an email out when a loan is taken out. I'm going to use Copilot to amend the body of the email that goes out. I'm asking Copilot to update the email to read, "Please be advised that you've taken out a loan and it's due back on X. I'm also indicating that they need to keep the original signature in place. I can now select the submit. And as you can see, it hasn't quite got this right. I'm going to select undo, and then it'll revert the flow. We can select on send an email, and we can see that it says thank you from the Contoso library team. So I've now updated the request. I'm saying update the email to add in the following before the thank you section, which is please be advised that you've taken out a loan and it's due back on date. I'm going to select submit. And if we select on the send an email step, we can see that that's now been updated. I can go into the body and I can start making changes of my own. Add that in, go on to the Contoso library team, make that bold. And I can now select on the due back on space, go to the dynamic content, and I'm going to type in due. And it's going to tell me here that the date due is an option. Select that, and it's brought in this dynamic information. So when we create the loan, we know the date it's due back, which means that when the row is added, we know the date due. I can remove this element which says due date. And I can now save the flow. I'm going to change the name of this flow. Go up to the top. I'm going to call it email student when a loan is created, Copilot generated. Save again. Now at this point, our ability to test it isn't available in the new designer. But it's okay, it's coming soon. In order for me to test it, I need to deselect the new designer. And I'll do save and switch. Select OK. And we're now looking at the flow from the perspective of the classic designer. In this case, all the parameters are included within the step itself. Change type added, table name is loans, and the scope is the organization. If we select on the send an email step, we can see that the body of the email indicates please be advised you've taken out a loan and the date that it's due back. And this particular email has been written using HTML, hence all the tags shown. I'm happy with this very, very simple flow. I'm going to select test. I'm going to have to do this manually because the flow has never run previously. So select manually and then save and test. The flow is now waiting for us to perform the trigger. So I'm going to go to the Loans Manager within the School Library solution. Select on that and then play. And I'm going to check out a book. Select a student, Yuki Sato, book copy, Winnie the Pooh, and then check out. Now this is enough for our flow to have been triggered and to have run successfully. We can see the trigger step when a row is added, modified or deleted. We can see various details associated with this. We can also see the send an email step. And it's sending it to my email address because I have configured Yuki Sato's email to be my email. And this is purely for demonstration purposes. So let's go over to my email. The email has been sent as expected to the person that we're expecting it to be sent to. It says, please be advised you've taken out a loan. And it's indicating the date due back in a format that we're going to correct in future videos. It then goes on to say thank you from the Contoso library team. Now because this was a Copilot generated flow, it's not inside a solution, but we can change that. We can go to solutions. I can go to my school library solution. I can go to add existing, automation, and then cloud flow. If I select on outside Dataverse, I can see the flow that I created. I can then add it. And I can now see that the flow now exists within my solution. If I select on cloud flows, it's a little bit easier for us to see. Email a student when a loan is created. And this means that if I was to ever export this solution, then this cloud flow would go along with that solution. We're now going to move on to an exercise where we build a cloud flow using the new designer. I'm inside make.powerups.com. I'm in the My School Library solution. If I select new and then automation, cloud flow, and automating a flow, and this would be a flow that would live inside our solution. But when it does this, it's going to use the classic designer. It's worth testing this out because it will change over time. In order to make use of the legacy designer, I'm going to hit the back option and I'm going to go to create. I'm going to select automated cloud flow and then I'm going to select Dataverse in the flows trigger. I'm also going to give the flow a name. Email a student when a loan is created. And I'm going to add in from blank. I can select the trigger when a row is added, modified, or deleted, and then select create. And we're back into a similar experience to before. I'm going to increase the size of the step, move it across a little bit, and then select on it. I selected change connection and then added the connection. And if you're missing a connection, you may need to select add new. And cancel out of that. It's now happy. Choose when the flow triggers, and it's going to be when it's added. Choose the table name, same as before. I'm going to type in loans and then select loans. And then the scope is going to be organization, which means the flow will run anytime a loan is added. Now that I've created the trigger, I'm going to add in an action. Select the plus icon, add an action, and I'm going to type in Outlook. Notice that there is an option for Office 365 Outlook, and that's not what I want to use this time. And that's because your Power Up account does not have access to this connector. I'm going to scroll down further and I'm looking at Outlook.com. I'm going to go to See More. And we've got an option for Send an Email V2. I don't have a connection to Outlook.com in the context of this environment, so we'll need to create one. You'll be using your personal Outlook.com details, but you could also use the Gmail connector. Select Sign In. Type in my personal email address. Select Next. Enter my password and then sign in. In the To option, I can select that, enter a custom value, and then select the data from the previous step. And if I type in email, I'll be able to see the student email. Select that, update the subject. I've said new loan taken out. And in the body of the email, I can start typing some text to indicate the body. So the subject is new loan taken out. The body is you've taken out a new loan. The book is due back on, and we're going to change that in a moment. Many thanks to the Contoso Library team. I'm going to select Contoso Library team and select bold. And then where it says the book is due back on, I'm going to look at the dynamic content, and then I'm going to look at the due date, and I'm going to select the due date. I'm happy with this flow, and I'm going to select Save. Now I'd like to test it out, but before I do that, I need to turn off the previous flow. Let's see how to do that. I'm inside the My School Library solution on the cloud flows, and I can see that the status is on. I'm going to hit the 3 dots and then select Turn Off. And the flow is now turned off. Back with my flow here, and I'm going to deselect the new designer and look at the classic designer. Save and switch. And I arrive at my flow. If you're not seeing this screen, you can select on My Flows and you can select on your flow. Now going to edit it and select on Test. I'm going to do this manually because it's never run before, and then select Test. As before, it's waiting for the trigger. So let's go and create a new loan. It's really important at this stage that you're actually taking out a loan to someone where the email address is a correct email address. So I'm going to go on to Maria Garcia, select on Maria. I'm going to update her email address to this one here, which is a valid email address. Save and close. I'm going to select Ignore and Save. I know there are duplicate records. And I'm going to move on to the loans check-in and check-out. And then I'm going to check out a book. Select a student. We're going to use Maria. Select the book copy. We're going to use Macbeth. And then check out. When I return back to the flow, I can see that it's run successfully. If you're not seeing all the steps, you can hit the back option, and then you can go and look at the 28 run day history. I can select on that. Once again, I can see that I've received an email, and although it's a very simple email and it doesn't have enough information, it's a good start point for us to build out a more complex email. Let's finish off this exercise by introducing this flow into our solution. Select on Solutions. Select on the My School Library solution. Add Existing, Automation, Cloud Flow. Outside Dataverse, email a student when a loan is created from blank and then add. The Cloud Flow has been successfully added. And you can see that the from blank flow has now been included. In this lesson, we saw how you can build flows using Copilot. And we also saw how you could build a similar flow from blank. We edited and configured these steps. And we moved from the new designer to the classic designer in order to perform testing. In future lessons, we will be extending and enriching this flow. I'll see you there.